Hey, Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps, and I'm joined now with the one and only, the now famous duo. You know, got Ricky Hatton, Campbell. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to next week, aren't we, son?
Yeah, ready to go. Just taking off from where we left. Really, the hard work was done for my debut, so we're just carrying it on. Really, just staying fit, staying sharp.
Well, you just had your pro debut. I wasn't there, but I was watching from California, and I saw that afterwards. You didn't seem like you were too pleased with your performance. Why was that? You definitely had a test in there. He came to give it to you, as they would say. But why weren't you too pleased with it?
Yeah, it was tougher than I expected. Not in his ability, because there weren't much that he did that actually put me under much pressure, but I don't think I'd really mentally prepared for myself for how tough they are. These journeymen, they don't just let you bulldoze them. So the toughness did shock me a bit, but I think the whole build up and the whole event of it sort of got to me a little bit, where I didn't show 50% of what I could do, and that's why I was a bit disappointed, really, just because I know I can do so much better. But now the dust has settled, looking back, we're not as disappointed, just because obviously we know it weren't my best, but now I can look at just how mad everything was the week of the fight. I can see why I weren't my best, really, and looking forward, I can just relax and enjoy things a lot more.
Ricky, what advice did you give him? Because I know he's being a little hard on himself. It was his pro debut. As you know, the more you're in there, which is the reason why they start you off the way that you do, with just so many rounds at a time, because you have to build yourself up. What advice did you offer your son?
Well, he was disappointed with his performance, and only because he knows himself he can do so much better. But I don't think it was a bad performance, to be honest. He showed in spurts what ability he's got and everything like that. But I think just the whole occasion got to him. I think there's not many people for just a handful of amateur fights and 20 years of age gets the build-up of a professional debut like he had, you know what I mean? They had the documentary on him midweek, which was fantastic, you know what I mean? And, you know, the morning of the fight, he was on Good Morning Britain, you know what I mean? And he's never had a microphone shoved under his mouth, you know, until that fight week. And I think just the build-up, which that's what we wanted for him, and I think I speak for Eddie with that. We want people knowing about him, want to build up his reputation, his following and everything like that. So I'm all for that week, what happened. But I think the whole thing just got to him. He tried a little bit too hard, you know, and ultimately, you know, he wasn't never really under pressure in the fight, you know what I mean? He was working harder than he needs to. I think now he's got it out of his system. You know, he's used to interviews. He's used to the build-up, what happens on a weekly basis now before the fight. And I think he'll perform a lot better this time. We'll see more of what he's got.
Did you find it strange when the first time I met you was back in London when we were all in the bubble? Did you find it really weird being the one, everyone, as you say, shoving cameras in your face and trying to ask you questions?
Yeah, it was different to anything I've ever done before. We got a little bit of a taste for it when I went.
You do like a chat, don't you? But
just for hours.
And you got it full force, didn't you, that week?
Yeah, but when we when we went in the bubble for the AJ fight, when we made the announcement, we got a bit of a taste for it, but nothing as intense as that week. And like my dad was saying, it was all well worth it, and I did enjoy every minute of it. But I won't have to do anything as intense as that again, and I'll have a bit more of a. Well, I'll have done it before, so yeah. I don't think it'll take as much out of me. And like I said, going forward, I can just relax more and enjoy things. And it was a bit of a shock. I'd wake up and wake up at 9 o'clock. They say 9:30 doing this, 10 o'clock doing this, and now I know what it's all about.
Right.
Yeah, I think what Matchroom did in building him and promoting him and everything that week, I think was an absolutely top job, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And you know, this is what, if you're going to get topping the bill, in years to come. That's what you got used to, and you unfortunately got used to it all on your debut. But if you can handle it on your debut, which you've got it out your system now, that will stand you in good stead for fights in the future when you get there. Being on a big show and a big occasion, Gibraltar with, Dylan White, Povetkin, top of the bill. Massive for him, and you've got to get used. If that's where we're heading and that's where we want to be, he's got used to it, albeit on his debut. But I don't think it will do him any harm. He's just got to move on from it and learn from it now.
With exposure also comes the haters online. Have you experienced more love, or have you experienced a lot of people sort of, giving you a bit of a hard time?
Yeah, I don't look like too much into it, but from everything I saw, it looked like 90% positive, really. So I was really grateful for like all the support I was getting, and everything has been like pretty much all positive. So like, I couldn't ask for much better, really.
I can imagine Manchester being so excited. They're like, "Yes, another Hatton."
Yeah. Well, I think everyone, I had fans all over the country, and I think when Conor Benn went professional, I think everyone got really excited. But I think everyone are looking forward to them possible Hatton nights again, and I think he can do it, absolutely no doubt. I mean, when you look at Conor Benn, prime example. Conor Benn, when he first turned professional, he didn't really impress too well. He won't mind me for saying this. He was, winging shots in like a headless chicken and everything like that. But you look at him 2 weeks ago. Look at the difference from then to now. Do you know what I mean? As aggressive as he's ever been, but composed, focused, looking where he's placing every punch. Even though he's being ferocious, he's placing every punch. He knows where everyone's going. Really world-class performance, and he's gone from the early days where he was struggling, and that's what he'll do. You just got to give him time, and I think people, your proper boxing fans, they get that. Do you know what I mean? It's not where you start, it's where you finish. He's got to get away to the cobwebs, get a few fights under his belt, fight these journeymen, move him up in class. That's the way he's going. But I mean, he'll do it. He'll follow the route Conor's doing. Conor is world-class fighter now. That was a world-class performance, and he didn't. Everyone was writing him off when he had 2 or 3 fights. Don't do the same with this lad. You know what I mean? It's going to be the same journey.
Do you feel that that's more pressure for you because your father is Ricky Hatton? So when you went into your pro debut, it was a bit more nerve-wracking because you felt like you sort of had to live up to this high expectation.
Yeah, that's something that like I don't really struggle with. Like I just know, as long as I do my best, like I can't do much more, and like I'm happy, like that. I don't really feel too much pressure with that. Like the pressure that really got to me was just like the shock of how much like media stuff there is and things like that, and how big a platform. Like say, we're really grateful for it, and I wouldn't change it, and it'll put me in good stead going forward. But like that was the only thing that I felt the pressure of, really, just how big everything was.
I think a lot of times people forget, like, not only are you preparing for a fight, but there's so much media and obligations that go into sort of promoting the fight. So it is added pressure, and a lot of people don't see that. They just see clips here and there on TV.
It's things you've got to do. It comes with it's as much as your job as anything else. And it's,
photo shoots.
Yeah, and it was new to him. It was like, whoa, what's all this about? And that carried on to his fight. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not bothered. His brother, my brother Matthew, who trains him, we're not bothered. In fact, we quite chuckle about it now. We actually feel sorry for him because, I mean, a lot of people say, well, being my son, it'll open the doors for him. But I think, when you look at it from that point of view, I think he's got a tougher job than most. Yeah, it might open a few doors for him, but I mean, look at the weight on his shoulders he's got. When he's got, forgive me for saying what I did as well. Look what he's got for him. But he didn't have to go into the game. I did it, so he didn't have to. But he still wants to do it. So I think, and I hope fans notice that and give him his backing rather than, early doors saying, yeah, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, not this, don't do that. It takes time. Give him his backing. He deserves a pat on the back, for getting into this sport, the hardest sport out there, with a dad that did what I did. You know what I mean? Pat him on the back. Don't knock him. You know what I mean? Just to baby steps. It's going to take time.
So let's talk about the dynamics between you two. You guys seem to have a really good relationship. I think it's pretty easy to read when you watch just sort of the banter between the two of you. Has there been a moment yet, because he is your manager, has there been a moment yet where you guys have butted heads and you just completely saw things differently? Or do you really just sort of take what he says since he's been there, done that, and trust that he knows exactly what he's doing?
No, it's like I'd be an idiot not to listen to to my dad. Like, he's been there and done a lot, so like, there hasn't really been anything that we've like disagreed on. It's when we get home that I think he talks bollocks.
The camera will go off in a minute, you know, and then you go, then you'll
I'll
cop
go
for.
then.
But no, he's a good kid. I mean, he's like, I can, you know, we had few words the other week over a matter, which is, if there's always anything I need to speak to him out, but I will do. But he's a good kid, you know what I mean? I think we did a good job, and his mum done a wonderful job bringing him up. You know what I mean? He's just like me through and through. He's like feet on the ground, down to earth, no airs, no graces, great sense of humour. I think in his lifetime, I maybe count on one hand how many times I've had to tell him off. That's, you know, and you know, for having a son, 20-year-old, that's rare, and it's because he's a good lad. He knows the avalanche will come if I need to tell him. But like I said, I've, you know, probably told him off maybe 5 times on one hand since he's been born. So then that speaks volumes, I think.
One of the things I loved was when you talked about how your father dropped you. The only time you've been dropped. Hold on. Hold on. So in that moment, were you thinking, oh, shit?
I did. It's like an instinct thing, isn't it, with your boxing? You know, the old moves come back, and I sat in, and he went down, and I went, "You're right, son." He went, "Ooh, ooh," and I thought his mum's gonna go fucking mad when he goes home and tells her. But no, it was a very similar thing. I worked in the Colliers Moston boxing gym when I was 16 years of age, and I was sparring with a guy called Pat Barrett, who does the Colliers Moston gym. And I sparred with Pat, and I was getting a little bit funky, you know, when I was sparring with him. And Pat just went whoop, bang, and he hit me, and he dropped me on my knees. And never felt pain like it. And it just brings you down to earth, and it gives you a little reminder of just how tough the game is. You know what I mean? You don't want people, if you're going into a game like boxing, you don't want to be patting on the head every 5 minutes. It is what it is.
He didn't expect it from his dad.
I was only 7 as well.
You were a bit old.
You were 14.
Yeah.
But what were you, in that moment, were you thinking like, oh, Dad?
I just thought, what a knob.
Can't argue with that. I felt like that. I did feel a bit like that myself, to be honest. But anyway, been and gone now. Water under the bridge, sunshine, isn't it? Eh?
I found it also interesting that you sort of had to convince your mother to let you go to an amateur club. Tell me why that is? Is she just simply, she's experienced a lot with his career, didn't want you going into it? I mean, obviously she must know how tough it is as well. What was the conversation like there?
Yeah, she just, obviously she's seen through the years how hard a game it is, like through my dad and Matthew's career, and obviously I think my dad as well, like didn't really want me to go into boxing, and she's always been dead supportive of everything I've done, and like it did take a little bit of convincing, but like there's I don't think there's anyone who's been more supportive of me than my mum, like in and out the ring. So I'm just really grateful.
He just said to me, he said, I'm thinking of giving it a go, Dad, because he was coming in doing little bits and bobs. I said, if you want to give it a go, you know, it's not a tickling contest, this game, you know what I mean? You've got to dedicate your out under yourself. I said, you know, you go and ask your mum, though, first. You know, and you went and asked your mum, and I bet I can just imagine the face. I bet she thought, oh, no.
She was just about to let me, and then you dropped me, didn't you? So that put me back another 12 months.
What was it like, though? What was her initial reaction to you saying that you wanted to do this?
Yeah, she just like pushed me more to just carry on as I was, where it was just a little bit of fun in the gym with my dad and Matt, where I was doing it more as a little hobby. Even though she took a bit of convincing, she was never like to say, "Oh, you can't do that." It just took a little bit of encouragement. But yeah, she got behind me like straight away after she'd finally come to terms with it.
Yeah, well, I thought to myself, let him do it. Let it start off as a little bit of a hobby. You know what I mean? We all know, what you get from boxing. Whether you've had one fight or 101 fight, the benefits you get from boxing about, keeping you fit and learning respect for your gym partners and your opponent, and what you get from boxing is so. In doing it, no harm. For a hobby would be no problem, no harm whatsoever. But then as he started getting more and more into it, and I thought he might have it in him to go pro. When he went pro is when I realised that we'd gone past the hobby part, and I needed to know that he was willing to give us 150% in here and out of there, looking after himself and stuff like that. And yeah, and that's what it is now. When it's gone from a hobby, but before he went professional, he had to prove to me and his brother, I think, that he was for real, if you like. So and that's what he did. He's so dedicated, and that's why and he takes it on board in between there. And that's why don't worry about the early days. You don't think Floyd Mayweather or Tyson Fury didn't have a couple of stinkers. You didn't perform like you can on your debut, but look what you had to perform in. No one, I didn't even have to have that pressure on my shoulders in my debut. So you've done it with one hand behind your back. That debut, you got used to it now, and I think you'll be so much better for it now. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, obviously the challenges will get bigger, like the fights are going to get a lot harder, but in a way I think like that's the hard one's done, sort of.
The toughest one, Campbell, wasn't necessarily the opponent, it was the event, it was the whole thing. That was your toughest.
Never have to deal with anything like that again now, so going forward I'll still have to do them things, but I won't have to do it for the first time again, and I'll know what to expect, and I can just enjoy it.
Wonderful, brilliant learning curve that was. That's what it was. Simple as.
What did you learn during Media Week, though? Because there's so much that goes into it. What were you, or do you feel still nervous in front of cameras? I know it can be very intimidating, especially live television. You're live, and there's this adrenaline that goes through your body.
Just when you swear like a trooper.
No, I didn't really feel nervous for any of them. It was just the amount of it, really, that shocked me.
Tiring, isn't it?
Yeah, because there was never anything that I thought, oh God, I'm doing this now. Like, I did feel like pretty relaxed with everything, but like it just adds up, doesn't it? Like after like hours and hours of it, like you start feeling it a bit, and I think like when you put them 8-ounce gloves on, you think you just have to hit them and they'll tumble over, and now I know just how hard all these fighters are. Like I didn't underestimate like the ability, but just the toughness of like every fight. Like they don't want these journeymen. They want to be fighting every week, don't they? They don't want to
break them up rather than it's like chopping a tree, innit? You don't just chop a tree down with one swipe. You've got to chip away. Especially with these journeymen, they might not be in your class or quality, but it's hard. It's how they make their living. You know what I mean? Yeah. You won't believe how tough they are, son.
Just loading up and being a bit like too eager to please and forcing things. Where like now going forward, I know if I just relax and let things happen, like it'll come then.
It was a very emotional moment for you. You even talked about sort of tearing up when you saw him making his ring walk, especially to Blue Moon. Tell me a bit about what that experience was like for you. And you as a father, I'm sure you would be able to sort of relate to if you saw one of your children do what you're doing and he's doing, or what you're doing and in his position, what that would feel like.
Yeah, well, I was extremely nervous, when we got to the venue and I got in the change room. But the whole day of the fight, I was extremely nervous. And then we got to the change rooms and he wrapped his hands and he was warming up. And then when he went on the pads, how sharp he was, how good he was, his speed and timing and accuracy and everything that was coming out of Matthew's mouth, I thought, yeah, that's bob on and everything. And these, if it had looked a bit sloppy in his warm-up, I'd have felt even worse. But he was absolutely razor sharp, bang on and everything like that, which was sort of like eased my nerves a little bit that he's in top form. But then when I was sat there ringside and Blue Moon come on, oh my Lord. I thought, it's a good job he had a COVID mask on. So that sort of like hid it a little bit. But I think everyone at home just said, oh, we felt so sorry for you because you were sat on your own, and they could just see me going, but I had my mask on, so it hid a multitude of sins, I guess, in many ways. But no, and I think, I think any father would feel the same. It was like going back all them years. It was like being boxing born again, to be honest with you. And it was only seems like yesterday I was putting his nappies on, and now I'm watching him walk down the ring making his pro debut. And I don't think I was the only one in the family that night watching it back home in Manchester. I think there'd have been a few tears on that couch, you know, especially the first one in it. I think the whole family, my mum, my dad, his mum, his nana and granddad, and I just think they all get it now. And I think this next one on the 1st of May, I think we can all sit back and go a little bit cooler now. Now the first one's out. Yeah, the hardest one's out the way for us and for him.
I can only imagine. I don't know how mothers or wives or girlfriends sit ringside and watch. How did your missus feel about it? Was she all knots in her stomach?
Yeah, well, I think it just makes it 10 times harder that obviously they were so far away, because like my mum and my girlfriend, my whole family always say like they don't like watching the fights, but like they couldn't imagine not being there, because like they just want to be there just to know everything's okay. And like it's not even that they were at the fight, like they weren't even in the same country, so it must have been horrible. But it's 10 minutes down the road next week, so so we're all right.
So on to next week. I will see you guys there. Do we know who the opponent is yet? Is there anything? No.
No, not really. I mean, to be honest with you, we've you know, he's got a great team behind him. You know, with Matchroom. I mean, they know what they're doing. They'll send the opponents out. I'll overlook the opponent. Matthew will overlook the opponent, and we'll make our mind up. But I think all three of us know what we're doing. I just see it being another one of the mill journeymen. We might look with a different style to the other one, which might cause him a few more tests. Might not be as durable as the other one. You know what I mean? He might have a few wins on his record, but he might not be as durable as the last opponent. But ultimately, it swings and roundabouts. You've got to go when you do the 4 rounders. Your first goal, you've got to go through all these journeymen and all these little different styles. That's what the learning curve is. You know, in his first few fights. So whoever it is, it'll be someone along the similar lines of his last opponent. And the key is obviously, in moving forward to do a better job than you did last time. And that's not just for you, that's for everyone. That's everyone's progress, isn't it?
You've been very fortunate to be on back-to-back solid big cards. So this coming week, you're going to be on Parker versus Chisora. Can I get your take on how the main event's going to go? Yeah,
I think it's got war written all over it. Like neither of them really take a backward step. I like Derek, but I think Parker's skills are just a little bit more polished, and he's a little bit cuter. So I can see I think Parker's going to win.
I go with that. Derek's my pal, innit? But I think how much longer can Derek go on for? But I mean, Parker's he's very skillful heavyweight. You know what I mean? He can box on the front. He can mix it up. He can box off the back foot. And I think I think it'll be a good fight, because obviously the styles can't help but not be a good fight. But I just think, I hope I'm wrong. I think Parker might be just that little bit fresher. But as we like, Derek comes off. He'll come in with a right hand and stick someone on the backside, won't they? So I think Joseph Parker's got a little bit more skills, maybe a little bit more fresher. So I'd edge it to Joseph Parker, but not by much.
The last time you and I spoke here in your gym, it was about the glove gate, the issue between what Deontay Wilder had said about Tyson. Yeah.
That piece of breeze block I put in his glove here.
When we last spoke about that, a lot has happened since. So now we're looking at the potential, the big one, coming up. We're hearing it's going to be in Saudi Arabia, or Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum have confirmed that the venue will be in Saudi Arabia. We're just sort of waiting on the date. I need to get your guys' take on what you think of the fight and who you favor in it. So either one of you?
You coward. No, listen, Tyson's my mate, and has been for years, and I was very, very fortunate. You know, when we went to lockdown, he's built a gym in Morecambe now, hasn't he, where he lives, but we was very fortunate to have him in here for a couple of years, and you know, he's been my mate for years, but actually to see him day in, day out train and what he's all about, what he goes through, it was a joy to see him. For all my novice, you know, professionals, you know, to be in the same gym a long time alongside Tyson it really was something else. So I'm going to be biased because he's my friend, and because I have first-hand, you know, footage of him training and what he's all about, and he is such a talent. Whether he wants to mix it up with you, whether he wants to box, whether he wants to go southpaw, whether he wants to go orthodox, so versatile for a heavyweight. So the size of him. So I can't go past anything other than a Fury win. But I mean, you know, Campbell works for 258 Management, which is AJ's management team, and they're doing a fantastic job with him. So when they fight, I feel like two of my mates are going to be fighting, and it's horrible. But I think AJ in his last couple of fights has just reminded us. I think we forgot that what ability, because AJ's so ferocious, knocks people out, you know, for fun. I think sometimes when them knockouts keep coming and coming and coming, I think we forget just how good his boxing IQ is. You know what I mean? You don't win an Olympic gold medalist if you're not, you know, if you're just a knockout merchant. I think his last two fights, he's shown a side to him. He showed his boxing brain and everything like that. So I don't say it with any degree of 100% confidence. I mean, I'd go for Tyson, but I mean, I think AJ knows everyone fancies Tyson, and I think that might bring the best. He might piss AJ off a bit, and it might bring the best out of him. But his last two fights, he's shown another dimension to his game that we forgot about. So, you know, I'm just made up that I'll just go with Tyson Fury, but I'm absolutely made up that it's actually on, because it been, you know, if it didn't happen, what a tragedy for British boxing.
It's most definitely tragedy if it does not happen. We do know that there's still sort of the looming arbitration going on between Tyson and Deontay Wilder. Actually, I think it was yesterday, Deontay's missus commented on my post that I had said that the venue was Saudi Arabia, and she had mentioned, well, not basically, I don't remember verbatim, but she basically said, well, he's not fighting anyone until he fights Deontay. So I found that really interesting. I'm like, I mean, there is still something going on there. So if the fight doesn't happen to be
going on, then how can a deal have been done? And if a deal has been done with that going on, I think Mrs. Wilder might be very happy. She might be able to come for a bit more. But I think I saw somewhere that Bob Arum turned around and said that it's on. I think Eddie's turned around and said that it's on. So, I mean, you know, I think why would you go against Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn when they've said that? And so hopefully it's just a minor matter that they just need to just sort out before they do move on. But I don't think, you know, Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn, you know, got such a big good reputation in boxing. I don't think they'd have stuck the neck on the line if it wasn't definitely done. Mrs. Wilder, I don't know. She might just be. She might just be. I mean, if some of the stuff that Deontay said, you know, I'd rather. I'm still going to take Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum's than Mrs. Wilder, because if some of the stuff what comes out of the Wilder house, with me feeling with the glove and all this and that, I think we're going to just take that with a pinch of salt. I mean, if Eddie and Bob Arum say it's on, then I pretty much think it's on. I just hope that Deontay gets that part of his. Because we're all professionals, I hope he gets that side of his deal sorted, and we can move on with the fight that the whole boxing world wants to see.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know that, you know, I don't want to put you in an awkward position or nothing, but I am kind of putting you in an awkward position. You could plead the fifth. However, if you don't want to give a prediction, maybe perhaps you could tell me how each of them win.
No, I do think it's a proper 50-50. I can't really make my mind up, but I think, like, if it goes to points, I think Fury does get it. I think, like, technically he's the best out there, but like we've seen with Wilder, like Wilder's such a big puncher, but I think unless he knocks you out with like that one shot himself, I don't think he's like, you seen like he can smother himself and like to take him out. I think once AJ catches him, I think he's got the boxing IQ to finish him, and like once AJ gets him going, he takes him out. So I think if it's a matter of Fury just not getting rocked once, because I think as soon as he does, AJ would take him out.
Yeah, I think when Wilder lands and gets someone going, he just starts sweet. He swings the bat, doesn't he, type thing. Where I think if AJ got Tyson going, you know, he's a lot more crisper, a lot more polished, a lot more controlled than Wilder. He'd had probably a better job of finishing Tyson. But I don't think it'll come to that. I think Tyson just edges him in every department for me. But you know, I mean, until I saw AJ's last couple of fights, I was all for Tyson. Now I'm not too sure. I still go with Tyson, but yeah, you know, by this now there's the margins.
Will you be joining Tyson again in his corner?
I didn't do his last couple of fights. Obviously, I went in the corner when he was with Ben Davison, but he's got a good team with him. Now, you know, Randy Lee, you know, looking behind him, and he seems really comfortable. You know what I mean? And you know, I worked with Ben a little bit, you know, in the gym here. You know, when we would talk about the spars and different things and talk about that, and you know, and I think that's why Ben introduced me to his corner, because of the advice I was giving him, and you know, and he was picking me brains and stuff like that. So me and Ben worked quite well together in the gym. So that's why he had me in the corner. But I mean, and it worked when we was in there for the first Wilder fight and everything like that. But he's got a new team now, and I would say Tyson knows where I am if he needs me. I love him, you know, and I'll be there for him. But I mean, if his team's not broke, don't fix it. You know, his present team, yeah.
Lastly, there's another big fight coming up. It's just after next weekend. Is Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders. This is a fight that Billy's been campaigning for years. Do you remember when he showed up to the press conference with him and Canelo and Triple G? And he was like yelling stuff from the corner, and he's been after this fight for the longest. It's finally here, finally happening. Billy Joe looks in the best shape I think I've ever seen him. Can I get your predictions on how the fight's going to go?
Yeah, I think style-wise, Billy Joe's all wrong for Canelo, but I can see Billy Joe taking the majority of the rounds. But I do think that Alvarez will I don't think he'll really try and win the rounds. I think his ambition in the fight is going to be just keep him flying around the ring and just try and drain his energy. And I can see Canelo stopping him probably late. But I think if there's anyone can beat Alvarez, it's Billy Joe. But I don't see anyone beating Canelo.
I think this is Canelo's hardest fight. I mean, he's struggled with. I mean, when he eventually knocked Kovalev, but Kovalev was able to outbox him a little bit. I thought, you know, it was like that on the cards when the knockout first come along, if you remember. And then Lara boxed Canelo, and you know, southpaw and angles, and he caused him probably the most trouble of anyone he's fought. And Lara is, I think, no disrespect, is a cheap Billy Saunders. You know, Billy Saunders has got more movement, he's more tricky. Do you know what I mean? Better defence and everything. So, and all good things must come to an end. Great champions, you know, some of the greatest fighters of all time, they all got to get beat sometime. And I think this could be the one. Do you know what I mean? If Billy gets off to a good start, starts, you know, putting rounds in the bank and winning the early rounds, but making sure, because Canelo comes on very, very, very strong. You know, he's very powerful, as Campbell just said. If he banks a few of the early rounds, you know, conserves a bit of energy, leaves a bit of energy to come down the home straight in the championship rounds and finish strong, because he'll have to finish strong, you know, because of, you know, the Mexican heritage, you know what I mean? And, you know, I'm not saying, but I mean, the judging sometimes, you know, can, you know, which is WBC belt, you know, and they love Canelo. I think Billy's got to go over there, and he's going to have to go over there, not steal the title. He's going to have to take it from Canelo, I think, because he's that highly thought of in the WBC. But I think he's got half a chance. I think everyone's going to go for Canelo, and maybe, you know, because he is an underdog. He knows he's up against it. But I think we might have a shot coming, to be honest. You know, I do.
Well, I think that this is a really tough fight for the both of them. Realistically, I mean, you're going up against the pound for pound, arguably the pound for pound number one.
Fair play to Canelo, because I mean, he must know that he struggles with southpaws and movers. He's still picked one, and that's why he's the pound for pound best, because of that attitude. You know what I mean? You can't choose and pick your opponents. Billy Joe has been hanging around forever. He's a two-weight WBO world champion, but I think we as British fight fans have been crying out for that defining name, for him, because I mean he's been two-time world champion, but he's not fought a name yet. He's got his chance now, and I couldn't be any happier for him. And I think he might have just got him at the right time. He's had all them wars with Golovkin. He's had all them, he's had a lot of fights on the record now. He had all them. He was boxing professional when he was 15, when his son, that was Canelo, So he's had a lot of fights, and sooner or later, great champions can turn up on that one night, and it's just not there. And I think Billy Joe Saunders has got a lot of things that can make him feel old. Yeah. With his style and his ability, yeah.
Just a shame that we won't have the British fight fans there in attendance.
Yeah, it's sort of like become the norm a little bit. I think life's coming back to normal a little bit for us, bit by bit, eventually. But it's just got the norm to me now. To be honest, I've spent all my time soaking about it and feeling sorry for myself. I think we've all just got to accept it. But the good news is it is getting better, and hopefully this time next year we'll be sat there watching it live again. So.
Amen. And hopefully next time we can get you here in Manchester in front of a live audience. That would be great.
So.
Yeah, that's especially at the MEN as well. Like, we've got my fight there next week, but it is a shame that it's going to be empty. Like, some of the best nights that I've ever seen, like my dad's box Kossuzu, and like where I've been there myself for watching Anthony Croller and Josh Warrington, and like there's been some top fights there, and like, I want that for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will get there eventually. Things are getting better, and hopefully by the summertime it could be a completely different story. And we'll have at least some fans in attendance, maybe not full-blown stadiums, but something, so that way you can finally have that first experience for yourself in your career. And I'm sure all of Manchester, including England, will be behind you.
It's all learning. It's all learning. We spoke about the debut, how he had to do interviews and this and that, and the entrance and the ring walk. His next one's at the Manchester Arena, which it might not be a crowd there, but all these experiences, you've got to take it all in, son. Because if that's where you want to get, you've got to take it all in.
And take it in now before you become some full-blown superstar and your whole life changes. So take them strolls around Manchester before it ain't no strolls anymore. Well, any final words?
Just thanks again for all the support. Everything's been really positive, so just dead grateful for that.
Yeah, just he took a little bit of stick for his pro debut, wrongly so, and I think listen, he's one of our own. He's one of us. Whether you're from Manchester, Liverpool, London, anyway, he's one of our own. You know what I mean? He's just local lad. Done well, down to earth, no airs and graces. He wants to try and be the best, and let's get behind him. Let's not knock in, get back in.
Well, as an adopted Mancunian, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your time, Campbell Ricky, for always, welcoming me here in your gym. And I look forward to seeing you guys next weekend. Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do so by clicking this icon right here, or else